Welcome back everyone. Today I'm going to be planting up my Colocasia, esculenta and Caladium bulbs. I've been dry storing them over winter in this cupboard here. I'm potting them up a bit earlier this year. I don't usually do it until March time, but I've been getting quite a few questions, so I thought I would do it a little bit early for you so I can show you how to do it. And also I did check on my Colocasia esculenta and it has started sprouting already. I have already made a few videos on how to overwinter them, which I'll attach below for you. And I've also already got a Caladium and tropical garden playlist on my channel, so the videos are a bit easier to find. So I need to make up some of my soil mix, which consists of a few things. I'll also link that video for you below as well. Usually I just buy a big bag of this already made up, but I was limited for space this time, so I just decided to buy a brick that you soak in water. So I'm planning on cutting this in half and just using half of it because I don't think I'm going to need the whole brick. I've also got some plastic pots ready. I think I'll be planting the smaller caladiums in these ones for now, and I'll probably have to repot them at some point. But all my pots are either in the loft or the shed at the moment, so I'm just going to make do. And I've got some plastic saucers, and also I printed off some labels so I remember which is which. So I'm just going to go ahead and chop this brick in half. The instructions are on the back, so we'll just need 2.5 litres of water if I'm using half. It takes about 20 minutes for it to expand, and then I'll just be mixing in some perlite and orchid bark. So it turns out it's a bit of a mission to cut this brick in half. You need a bandsaw or something to cut it. My knife just isn't good enough, and I really can't be bothered to go and get my saw from the shed, so I'm just going to soak the whole brick. Wow, so it actually makes up quite a lot. So I think I'm going to tip half of this into another bucket and then add in my perlite, orchid bark, and I've got a bit of activated charcoal left. So I haven't made it super chunky like I normally would for my philodendrons. I've made it so that it will hold a good amount of moisture for the caladiums and the Colocasia. As I mentioned before, I'll link my soil mix video below for you. You can actually tailor it to any plant that you like. So in these paper bags I've got one esculenta bulb, and then I think I've got around 6 different varieties of caladium. So I'll get them all out of the bag so you can see them, and then I'll show you which way up to plant them. So I've just stuck all the labels on the pots to make sure I don't get them mixed up. Obviously I won't get this one mixed up because it's a lot bigger than the rest. I'm actually 1 pot short, so I'll have to sort that out later. I do actually reuse these plastic pots every year, so they never get thrown away. They always get used. So here's my Colocasia esculenta bulb. As you can see, it started sprouting here, and then it's also got a few other growth points coming up. So usually these are quite flat on the underside, and obviously that goes at the bottom, and then you'll find that the top will be slightly more pointed, or you'll have little growth points facing upwards. But if you are unsure of which way round to plant it, just plant it on the side. So originally I just had one large esculenta bulb about 3 years ago, and then last summer it actually did multiply quite a bit. So as well as this piece here, I also had another one. If you're wondering what the powder is on it, it's just sulfur powder, and this just helps it to stop going mouldy while it's being stored over winter. Alternatively, you could possibly use cinnamon powder. So I'm not going to be planting it that deep in the soil. I'm probably going to have this piece here sticking out of the soil. So that's the esculenta all potted up. Usually I would give it a little water, but because the soil is so moist, because I've just made it up today, I don't think I'm going to water it until it's dried out a little bit more. Once I've potted them all up, then I'll be showing you where they will be growing. So here we've got Big Red, and this is the caladium in my collection that always produces the largest leaf. It usually has one huge leaf and then a few smaller ones. So as you can see on the bottom, they're quite flat and smooth, and then on top they're a bit more pointy. Same with this one here. So we're going to be planting them with the flat smooth bit on the bottom, like this. I'm going to be planting these quite shallow in the soil, maybe just a couple of inches below the soil level. In regards to how many bulbs you put in one pot, it's completely up to you. You could just put one bulb in the pot, but I find if you put maybe 2 or 3 together in the same pot, it'll look a bit nicer because you get more foliage. So I've just covered them with around 1 to 1.5 inches of soil on top. You could actually even plant them a bit more shallow. It's best to plant them too shallow than too deep. A lot of people plant them too deep and they just don't come up and they end up rotting. So next up we have the Florida Moonlight, and I've just realised that some of these bulbs have rotted, the smaller ones. These feel very firm, so they're fine. That one should be fine. But these 2 smaller ones looks like they've rotted and they're all squishy, and they feel damp as well, so it could be that when I dried them out before storing them, these weren't dried out enough. It's a bit of a shame, but we've still got 3 anyway, so I'm just going to plant these 3 together. Next up we've got Strawberry Star. These all feel nice and firm, they're fine. As you can see, these are much smaller than the previous bulbs I've just shown you. Again, I'm just going to be planting these 3 together. So I'd actually forgotten how much the Frog in a Blender Caladium had multiplied, so I'm going to have to get this one a bigger pot. So we're up in my office now, and this is where I'm going to be growing the Caladiums and my Colocasia underneath my Spider Farmer grow light. I think I'm going to be putting them on the bottom shelf. I'm going to have to shuffle a few things around as I'm growing some seeds here on a heat mat, which I'll be updating you on soon on another video. These are my butterfly wing plants. So I generally use this shelving unit for propagations, growing bulbs and cuttings, things like that. So last year I actually started off the Caladiums and Esculenta in my living room next to my patio doors. And then Spider Farmer kindly sent me this grow light, and then I transferred them all up here. They all really took off under the grow light, so I had to actually then remove this shelf because they were getting too big. So I'll probably end up doing that again once they start growing. I've put a couple on the heat mat just to see if that speeds up the process at all. It is currently 26.7 degrees Celsius in here, which is pretty warm anyway, so it shouldn't be too long before they get going. And I also have a humidifier up on the shelf as well, so it's nice and warm and humid in here. So I would recommend putting your bulbs in the warmest and brightest place possible. If you don't have anywhere warm, I would recommend getting a heat mat, as that will really speed up the process of the growth. So I've just got one Caladium missing, which is the Frog in a Blender, and I need to go and find a bigger pot for that one. But apart from that, they're all here, and I'll keep you updated on their progress. All the products that I've used or I've mentioned in the video will be linked in my Amazon shop, which is in the description box, and that also includes the heat mat, the propagator, all the ingredients for my soil mix, things like that. And also I'll link below the Spider Farmer grow light for you. Oh, and also I did pick up a new water filter as well. As I mentioned earlier, usually I would give them a bit of water, but because the medium is quite moist already, I'm just going to let it dry out a little bit, and then I'm basically just going to water them very sparingly until I see growth, and then once I see growth I will just water them pretty much like I would do with my other houseplants once a week. But again, the amount of water and how often you water will depend on your home environment. I do keep my home very warm, and most of my plants are in bright indirect light or under grow lights. And also when I added water to the cocoa brick, I used filtered water. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you've got any questions, please just leave them below in the comments. I'm really excited to see these start growing, and obviously I'll keep you updated on their progress. The Colocasia always grows so quickly, so it won't be long before I get to show you a lovely leaf on this one. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you all soon.